Right. There we go. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Doolittle. I'm really glad to have started this relationship and to develop this friendship together. And it's really exciting for me to be able to share and to have the dubious distinction of being a very interesting and unique and exciting speaker. I hope to kind of deliver on that to whatever degree that I can. And thank you all for coming and joining me. I know that many of you are professionals or helpers in your own way who are undoubtedly very busy, and it's a tremendous honor, and I hope to kind of make good use of your time here. So I'm going to give you an outline of what I plan on doing. Before we start, I think it's appropriate to let you know that I will be doing some sort of interactive activity with you. So if you could take a moment or two to grab a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, that'll serve you in good stead when the interactive activity comes upon us. So I'll give you guys a few seconds. Those of you who are more technologically savvy, not me, you can feel free to open up like a Word doc on your screen. For me, I'm old school, so I like a pen and paper. Those of you who are more inclined that way, feel free to grab one. All right, fine. So now that hopefully everyone's grabbed their pen and paper, let me give you a brief outline of what we're going to do together here. And then I'm going to kind of walk you through what I'm going to do, and then we'll start back from the beginning. So there's just important to clarify. The goal of this talk today with everyone here is that we are going to share and explore effective self-care practice and parallel that with the Orthodox Jewish Shabbos, right? It's referred to as Shabbos. The Sabbath is referred to by Orthodox Jews as Shabbos, and I'll be using the cultural term Shabbos. The second is to just clarify for you the difference between what effective self-care isn't, and then we're going to explore what effective self-care is. So again, we're going to start off with self-care, why it's important, then what effective self-care is not, and then obviously what self-care is. I'm not going to leave you hanging, don't worry. And then once we're in that part, which is really the feature presentation, then I'm going to break that down into three aspects of effective self-care, the three themes that I've noticed parallel my research on effective self-care and that of the Jewish observance of Shabbos. And we're going to go through each one of those themes, and I'm going to explain the theme. Then I'm going to show you the parallel to Shabbos, and then we're going to make it practical and make it real so that everyone can have a great takeaway for their own lives, regardless if you're Shabbos observing or not. And then finally, at the end, we'll review everything, wrap it up, and then we'll do a couple of questions and answers and kind of get this conversation fully explored. All right, so let's start. So why is effective self-care important? So if there was really any time that it would be important, it would be now in today's era. It's been important before then. And just thinking about the incredible pace of life and just how quickly everything in life runs from work to business and teaching, education, personal lives. People's lives and love have changed so much with the advent of technology. Again, there are many beautiful, amazing benefits of technology, but there's also the unmistakable just negative effect of how quickly life moves. And it's just so important for all of us really to kind of, appreciate the idea of slowing down, taking care of ourselves, being in the moment, being present, being mindful, and appreciating this amazing gift of life that we all have, and not to lose sight of it amidst all the flurries of Twitters and texts and, Facebook posts. So it's important not just for I think, the general population, but especially for us, right? For those of us here who are carers in a personal capacity, all the more so if you're in a professional capacity, because often that means you're caring in both personal and professional. So the idea of needing to care for ourselves is just even more important when we're someone who's consistently giving to other people and engaging in empathetic attendance to others. It just highlights the need and importance for us to invest in ourselves and to kind of take a step back from all of the constant demands on our attention, our time, our emotional bandwidth, to just stop and breathe, to live, to just be in the moment, allow ourselves to recognize what we're doing, appreciate the life that we're living, the opportunities that we have, the blessings that we're gifted with. There's so much here for us that we have to gain, and so much we need to do, especially as carers, because we have an ethical imperative to the people we care for to be the best carers we can. And that means that we have to take care of ourselves. Everyone knows the airplane analogy, right? To apply the oxygen to yourself before you care for others. There's more to life than oxygen, right? There's love and calm and being settled. We need to apply those measures to ourselves before we can apply that to others. And it's so important. And it's not just for those of us in helping professions such as doctors and therapists, but anyone really in any care-centric position, such as law enforcement, emergency medical, forensics, court, any child care or child protective system. There are so many high pressure positions that just get exacerbated by the breakneck pace of life that require us to step back and actually take care of ourselves. Which leads us to the second part, which is, so what is not effective self-care? Because thank God, Western society has been blessed with this tremendous awareness of self-care, the importance of taking care of ourselves, the importance of investing in us, the asset, in order to kind of get the best ROI, right? The return on our investments mean we kind of have to take care of the proverbial goose, right? Take care of ourselves so that we can then lay those eggs of love and care and energy for everyone else. And it's so important, as I stressed before, for carers, because caring isn't an easy business. It never was and never will be. It's just not that easy. We're human. And we need to do the best we can to keep ourselves fighting fit. And it's amazing to see that the internet, thank God, has this like abundance, this plethora of options and opportunities for self-care, from all sorts of Pinterest websites that come up with all different ways to kind of attend to yourself, and yoga studios and all sorts of mindfulness. There's so many resources out there. But unfortunately, in our society, and I don't think it's endemic to just us in the Western society, but it's definitely something that I noticed that we struggle with, which is, even with the accumulated wisdom that we've developed over the centuries and the millennia of human intellectual development, we have this uniquely human tendency to boil down our wisdom and the greatest that we have to offer into the most practical or effective behaviors, or the most effective practice, without taking into account the full appreciation of the underlying rationale, of the comprehensive understanding and the mechanics of what leads us to that. Why is this effective? What's the understanding of it? What's the research behind it? And unfortunately, with such a fast-paced life, we often lose sight of the real meaning and the real depth to whatever it is that our society has offered us, whatever it is that the human intellect has developed, and we're left with just these superficial kind of like frameworks, or almost like sound bites, or little effective practice, without recognizing the underlying understanding and the background. And this problem, it leads itself in many areas of life, but specifically for self-care. It means that people who think that self-care is just hashtag massage Mondays, right? Again, I'm not saying massage isn't great. I would love a massage every Monday, but the idea of thinking that that's all you need for self-care is unfortunately very limiting, because the human being has so much more to them than just needing a self-love Sunday. There's more to self-care than just cute hashtags or yoga studios. There's more to self-care. It's about a lifestyle. It's about living with this focus on ourselves, with a focus on recognizing the big picture that I'm here to give. And in order to give, I have to invest in me, right? We have to water the plant in order to allow the seed to grow and to blossom and to give forth other seeds. And it's almost like, the way I understand effective self-care is by those first three letters, like ESC, right? To me, that reminds me of the escape button on our keyboard. I feel like the superficial understanding of effective self-care is that's it. It's just an escape. to me, it's more than that. It's you take back, and when you push escape, what happens is that all the little boxes on your screen fade away, and you're left with calm. You're left with the big picture. You're able to see all the tasks that you need to do. You're able to start fresh on whatever it is that you need to attend to. Escape, right? The effective self-care button is more than just running away. It's more than just disconnecting. It's the disconnect to allow ourselves to look back at the picture with a much more clearer understanding and a much more fresher start to take care of the tasks that we're able to deem in a calm, calculated moment as most important to us. So let's get to that, right? So what is this escape button that I'm talking about? What is effective self-care, and how do we get it? So this is, again, I'm going to outline it just so that we're all keeping, I could keep you guys focused. I wish I had slides to show you, but for now, my outline will have to do, which is I'm going to go through the 3 themes that I've noticed in effective self-care and my research on effective self-care, and the parallels with the Jewish Shabbos. And I'll tell them to you first, and then we're going to go through them one by one, right? So the first is compartmentalizing, right? The idea of defining our roles. The second is boundaries, which is maintaining and defending and investing in those roles, making sure that we know where that role starts, where that role ends. And the final one, which is my absolute personal favorite, is sanctuary of self, which is where we recharge, we rejuvenate, we get back in touch with who we are, what we want to do, what we want out of life, and how to get there. CBS, tuning in to ourselves. And that's what we're going to do here together. We're going to explore how to tune in to ourselves with these 3 themes that parallel between my research on self-care and the Jewish Shabbos. All right, so let's go through effective self-care, right? So compartmentalizing, right? The C of our CBS, right? So it's like something that I don't think is new to us, right? This is not something that you're gonna be like, oh, wow, Dr. Felt, that's brilliant. It's very like, this is an obvious thing. We all know this, right? Which is we have many different roles. Many of us wear different hats. I wear a Jewish one. And many of us, right, wear so many different hats that unfortunately also kind of, all happen at the same time, the simultaneous roles of being, number one, let's say a doctor and a father and a chef and an expert IKEA furniture builder and the Mr. Fix whatever's broken around the house person, or a researcher and a mom and a wife and a speaker and someone who loves to garden, right? There are so many different roles that we have simultaneously. And it's so important to recognize each one of those roles. Why? Because each role has its own tasks and goals and value and benefit. The tasks and goals of one task may be very different from another role. And when we lose out on attending to the role that we're in, let's say as a doctor, right? If we're running out to deal with, like, let's say, checking on the sports because you have this, you're sport aficionado or you're super into something else, you're losing out on the role of being, a doctor. If as a mom, we're not attending to our children because we're constantly checking our Apple Watch for the latest ping or responding to work emails, so then we're losing out on the task and the benefits of that role as a mother, right? And these are all roles that are so important to us, and we don't want to lose out on those roles. And a lot of these roles kind of influence and enhance the other roles, meaning if I'm not, attending to my role properly as a father, I'm not really going to be as effective as a therapist, as a rabbi, as a doctor. It's just not going to happen. There's a part of us that really keeps score. We are aware of how well we're doing and how well we're functioning, and when we're not, we sense that, and it leads to a diminishing of our own levels and ability to attend to the tasks of each role. So that's why it's super important to remember and to define and compartmentalize each role, each unique role that we have. And again, in today's world especially, there are so many simultaneous roles that it's so important to kind of keep track of each one. But there's one role that we almost take for granted. And unfortunately, it's actually the most powerful role that we have, which is that we are all human beings, created in the image of God, endowed with the greatest divine gifts of wisdom, intelligence, and intellect. And that gives us so much ability and so much power and so much relief, in the sense that we are just the created. He's the creator. It's his world. It's not my world. It's his world. So that role in and of itself allows us to step back, right, and realize, wait a minute, while I'm working on this patient and I really want to heal them, cure them, fix them, it's not my world. It's not up to me. It's up to him. And it doesn't ever excuse us from saying, all right, well, then I'm out, right? It obviously not, right? We have our own ethical responsibility to the people we attend to, but to recognize at the end of the day is we are not God. He is God. And it's up to him. In fact, this is aptly expressed by a Jewish sage, Rabbi Tarfon, in Pirkei Avos, which is the Jewish ethics of our fathers. This is an ancient work where Rabbi Tarfon has this phrase in Hebrew, Lo alecha hamalacha ligmar. The work, it's not upon you to complete the task. The einata ben chorin lihibatel mimenu, but you are not free from abandoning that task. Meaning just because it's not on us to finish it because it's God's world, it doesn't absolve us of our clinical or personal responsibility to attend to whatever task we have and to whatever role we're in. But this idea, this underlying role, that of a human being who's part of this greater ecosystem, right? And recognize that there's been a world that came before us and after us, and it's going to be there even after we're gone. The world will move on. It's not up to us. It's okay to let go and let God if you're religious, right? Or to just let the universe if that's your belief system, but to just let go. And to remember that he's the boss. We just work here. That's it. And so this idea in Shabbos is expressed with the phrase in scripture of Sheshes Yamim Tavodu, for 6 days you shall work, Uvashvi Shabbos Vayinafesh, and on the seventh day you shall surely rest. So a lot of us have grown up thinking that, like the Sabbath means that you rest, you just chill, you do nothing, you have a fun time with family and friends. It's a great day to get off of work, right? But Sabbath is actually way more than that. And the biblical commentators explain how Shabbos is God's way of sharing with us that it's not our world, it's his, and he's got this. We can work for those 6 days, running in our hamster wheel of life. But on the seventh, we sit back, take a moment to just let go and let God. He's got this. It's going to be all right. And that's just such an important and relieving role to compartmentalize and to recognize, especially for us as professional carers, because that's all we do is trying to attend to God's creatures. We try to love them and heal them and fix them. And it could be very, very emotionally taxing in whichever capacity you are in, like to protect people, to take care of people, whether or not you work in law enforcement or in emergency medicine or in mental health. This effort of wanting to care for people and to love them and take care of them takes a huge toll. It ain't easy, folks, right? And people don't realize how hard it is, right, to be a carer. And sometimes we don't give ourselves enough due credit to realize it really ain't easy. And that's okay. That's fine, because it's not on us. We don't have to fix the world. We could try. It'd be awful nice if we did, but it's not on us. We just work here. So that's the idea of compartmentalizing, right? And bringing that home to all of us, is to recognize that take a day off, right? That the Sabbath teaches us this idea that you don't have to do it in a day. You can do it right now, right? Just to take the idea to sit back and realize it's not my world, to let go and to let God. So the next is boundaries, right? And so boundaries is also something that all of us know how important it is. And I'm just going to be reminding you because it's one of those things that are so fundamental that we often forget its importance, which is that boundaries help us determine when our role begins and when our role ends. Meaning when I walk out of my office, again, with COVID, it's going to be crazier. I'm going to get to that soon. But when I walk out of my physical office, I leave that world behind me and I enter into a new role. Of that as a father, that as a friend, that as a husband, right? It's a new role with its own entirely new tasks, goals, and amazing things to benefit from. But that idea of making those boundaries is so important. And it sometimes could be as simple as turning off your phone. It could be as simple as putting it on silent or making a special ringtone for like the emergency caller where you know that there's someone at the hospital or at work who has, that's the only person who you've allowed to be the one to reach you during an emergency, right? And you have a special ringtone for that person. So you could just turn your phone on silent and that's it. And this way you already know. But the idea to reinforce our boundaries, to reinforce our roles is so important. And it allows us to invest in each one of those roles in a way that's adequate and appropriate for that role. And so we don't lose out. And that we don't spend our lives running after things, not realizing what we've neglected, what we've kind of just abandoned to just the different craziness of life that may have just distracted us with very reasonable distractions. Again, many of us are professionals, so it's not like, the game is on, I gotta go, right? Many of us are being pulled away by many real and pressing and urgent concerns, and that's why it's all the more important for us to make sure to define, defend, and maintain our boundaries. And what's beautiful about this is that we see it in the Shabbos, right? In Shabbos, for the Orthodox Jews, right, there's this crazy hustle and bustle on Friday afternoon, right before sundown. And as soon as that sun sets, all the fathers head off to synagogue to pray. The moms gather their children, bless the candles, and focus on their role as a mother, on family. Nothing else. There's a certain beauty to that, and the emotional benefits and psychological benefits are obvious to all of us. But the idea of taking from the Shabbos this beautiful idea of maintaining super strict boundaries. The Orthodox are super, super, tough about this. They're very strict on Shabbos. Shabbos is it. It's over. There is nothing to talk about. And the idea to apply it to ourselves means it doesn't have to be a Shabbos thing, but it could be if we have a certain consistency that we can maintain in our lives, just like the Jewish Shabbos, where it's consistent and it comes every single Tuesday. You have that Netflix show that you watch with your wife or with your husband, and that's your Shabbos, where that's it. The phone is off, the internet, everything's off. It's just me and my wife or me and my spouse watching the show that we do every single Tuesday. The idea of maintaining that role, investing in that role. Again, it's not easy, right? To clear out your schedule and make sure that you have a set time that's consistent. It ain't easy, right? No one ever said life is. But the benefits that we can gain and benefit from doing that is so invaluable, and especially for those people we care about. I'm sure your wife will really appreciate it. I'm saying as a spouse, like your husband's gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, sure, I'd love to spend that. Meaning the idea of saying, hey, I value you, I value this role that I have in your life, right? With my children, with my friends, right? To have your, I don't know, Wednesday night basketball game or something. Again, obviously trying to keep it safe, right? But the idea of investing in set times for investing in ourselves is so important, and another beautiful idea that we could take from Shabbos. Which moves us to our final feature present. This is my personal favorite, the sanctuary of self. Ominously SOS, but this is where you'll need that pen and paper. So those of you who had it and then lost it, I'll give you a few moments to look around and grab it. I'm going to give you an introduction to how I kind of came onto this idea of sanctuary of self. Then I'm going to explain it a little bit more in psychological terms so that we could see how it's actually beneficial for us. I'm going to explore, the relationship with Shabbos, and then we're going to bring it home with this amazing activity that I hope all of you will enjoy. So let's do this. Sanctuary of self. So the way sanctuary of self kind of developed was during my dissertation, when I was doing the data analysis. So I had all this data here, spreadsheets all over the place. I bought a special, really big screen computer so I could see all the data at once. And I was just looking at everything, and I was struggling with this problem, which was that I had so many participants in my study who admitted to some sort of symptoms of burnout or vicarious trauma or like compassion fatigue, yet they were doing so well professionally and personally. And it was really weirding me out. What's going on? How are they able to maintain that clinical and personal efficacy despite the clear effects and negative effects of their work on their lives? They were exhibiting all sorts of symptoms of burnout and vicarious trauma, and yet they were still maintaining such an excellently effective life. And I was just sitting there trying to figure it out, because each one of them was telling me, oh yeah, self-care is stupid. The world has this dumb idea of self-care. It's not just yoga. It's not just massage Mondays. And they were saying all these different concepts and bashing this and bashing that. I was like, so then what is it? What is it? And I was venting to my chair, and my dissertation chair, who's a very close friend of mine, a mentor, we've thank God have a beautiful relationship for many years. And he was telling me about something, I think just to kind of just calm me down. And he was telling me about how he was going out into the back, because it was during he was going out to the back of his property where he had built this beautiful chapel, like a 10 by 12 chapel, replete with its own custom stained glass. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. He sent me pictures. It's gorgeous. And he said that they have this delicious routine that him and his wife do, where they sit down in the chapel with the sun shining down on them, right on a bench, and they read the Bible together. Now, him and his wife are tremendously busy people. Like they work in like tremendous amounts of stress and professional attention. I think they work with trauma and with serial killers and like, you know, the crazy of the crazies, like the stuff you see on the news. They deal with that. Like this is their life. This is their profession. And it all of a sudden hit me. How do they do it? And the answer is this: that little chapel they have, this little sanctuary that they've created for themselves. They're able to just go into that place and seek sanctuary with each other, with themselves, and be able to forget all the crazy serial killers and child molesters and all the crazy stuff that they deal with. And they're able to just be in the moment and seek sanctuary within themselves. And then it reminded me of this beautiful song that the Orthodox Jews sing towards the end of Shabbos. It's called Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. In my heart, I shall build a sanctuary. And that's when I realized there's no way I could build a sanctuary in my Queen New York City house, you know, a townhouse attached on both sides, you know, a tiny little lot. There's no way I can do that. But what I could do is I could build a sanctuary in my heart. And then I noticed that that's exactly what all of my participants, or at least the majority of my participants, had done. And I went back through the data and I saw how each one of them had their own unique sanctuary of self, whether it was having this ritual with their wife, or if it was going on a hike with their girlfriends, or if it was the idea of taking a Tuesdays to just, one person told me that they bought a convertible, puts the top down and just goes for a drive, right? Just reconnects with himself. Meaning it wasn't necessarily the activity. It wasn't the effective practice, the self-care practice that was helpful for them. It was getting in touch with themselves, right? Reading the Bible together, getting in touch with their purpose in life, the bigger picture of who they are, what they are, where they want to go, what they want to be, the idea of finding that sanctuary in themselves. And it's just such a beautiful concept. And I realized that this was also something that I myself had been doing my entire life. Ever since I was little, always struggled with ADHD, right? And my mind was always going everywhere. And I found it very effective to sit down, right, and kind of organize myself and focus on, what do I want to get done this week? What do I want to accomplish this week? And I had the system that got refined over the years. I think I started when I was 15, right? So over the years, thank God, it's gotten a lot better. And when I was looking back at my research with this new idea of sanctuary of self, it just illuminated just so much about my own personal system that I realized, oh my God, all of my entire life, I've been doing this too. I've been seeking a sanctuary of self and creating this sanctuary. And folks, get this, it takes me less than 10 minutes a night. So we're going to do this together. I'm going to explain to you what I do, how I do it, how it's helpful, and then we're going to use really the insight from the research and from Shabbos to kind of make this real for you. So let's grab that pen and paper. All right. And we're going to sit back and we're going to try to identify a few things one at a time. So let's go slow, right? The first one is, what's your purpose? Write down your purpose. It could be one, it could be two. It doesn't have to be altruistic. That's totally fine. I'm not grading this. So I think in general, it's helpful to just let it out. Just whatever comes out, put it down. All right. It looks like many of you guys are holier than me because it's taking you longer to do it than I do. I guess I'm too selfish. I just have like one or two purposes. That was it. But so it's good to see so many more well-developed people. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move down a space or two, and we're going to write down, what is your passion? Now, by passion, I mean, what is your joy? What excites you? What gives you joy? Purpose is something that's a little bit more clinical, almost in a sense of like something more serious. Passion is just happiness. What gives you inner happiness and joy and excitement? It could be the same as your purpose, by the way. It's fine, right? There's no like rules here. It could be the same as your purpose. It could be something different. It could be something crazy. It could be something not so fun. It's okay. We're not judging here. I'm not grading it. This is for you. Now let's take a step back, right, and look at the things that we've written down, and see if you can identify any patterns, anything that you could see there that could help you gain a little more insight into what your core values are. I imagine, just because this is a self-selecting sample, that most of you can probably find some sort of core value about helping, about caring, loving, nurturing. That's beautiful. That's amazing. That's something that I feel honored and humbled to be in this group with all of these helpers and carers, and that's amazing. But it doesn't have to be limited to that. It could be anything. And now we're going to take those through and run them through my own little sanctuary of self activity. So let me tell you how I do it, right? I'm going to give you an example of how I do it, and then I'm going to put it back on you guys. You guys are going to do it yourselves on the second paper. All right, so first let's take it slow, right? Pens down. Let's just relax. I'm going to explain to you what I do. Then I'm going to run you through like a little example so you can kind of see how it works in real time, and then you're going to do it yourselves. All right, so what I do is I sit down and I write at the top of my paper, a fresh paper each week, right? I do this on Saturday night, kind of connecting it to the Shabbos, trying to take that sanctuary of Shabbos and have that kind of extend throughout the rest of the week. You can do this anytime. We're going to do it today, so don't worry. It's not something that's exclusive to Shabbos. And I write down on the top, what are my goals? It used to be I would have 1 million goals. So I've learned that less is more. And I would just stick with just like, let's say 1, 2, or 3, maximum like 5, right? And I would write down my goals. And then for each goal, I would then do a tripartite system of clarifying why that's a goal for me, the importance of the goal, the challenges I have towards, achieving that goal, and then the solution. This is really where the magic happens, is in that clarifying state, where I write down why is that goal important for me. So I'm going to give a quick example, and then we're going to put this on you guys. You guys get to do it on your own fresh second piece of paper. So for me, the example that I usually share is when I wrote my dissertation. There's the literature review. So the second chapter, where you have to kind of go through all of the relevant research and literature on your topic of interest. So it was very overwhelming. I'm sure it is for everyone, but I know that I felt it very uniquely in the sense that with my ADHD, I was just like super overwhelmed. My mind was going everywhere. I was just like, oh my God, where do I start? So for myself, I sat there and I said, all right, goal. Organize myself for the data collection, right? For the literature review, right? Goal number 2, make a plan. Goal number 3, execute the plan, right? Not so crazy, right? The goals don't have to be these beautiful things. If I want to save the Amazon, right? It could just be very simple, practical stuff. Now, ready for the magic? In the clarity section, I wrote down a little pep talk to myself. And I just talked about, right? I clarified, why is this a goal for me? And that's where I wrote down how it's really important for me to get this degree. Why? Because I want to become a scholar. I want to understand the research. I want to be able to do my own research. I want to be someone who can take the amazing wealth of data that we have in this world and turn it into actionable effects on people, to help people, to make them better, to take data and turn it into deed. That's what I wanted to do. And that would make me happy, because that would be me using my abilities and my intellect and whatever it is that I have and I've been blessed with in my life to then affect change, positive change in the rest of the world. And it was like a cute little pump up speech, like almost like a remember the Titans, it like pumped me up and it got me in a good place. It was like my own football coach, right? And that right there at the clarifying section, right? That pumped me up. So then I'm like, all right, now I want to do this. What's stopping me? What's stopping me from achieving my goals? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles in my way? So I went through it. Number 1, ADHD. I'm pretty impulsive and easily distractible. That's a big one, right? So I put that one down, right? The next one is I tried to make it a little bit more specific, right? So what would be distracting to me? I was like, well, social media, wanting to check the news compulsively. These are, so I wrote them down. I wrote down, getting hungry, right? And then wandering around for a snack and never coming back, right? So I wrote down those 3 things. So now I'm on the 3rd section, right? Which is, now what are my solutions, right? I've identified the obstacles, and now I'm looking at what are the solutions. So it's now really easy for me because I see the obstacles right in front of my face. All right, so the first one, right? The idea of just being distracted, right? So it makes sense to make small micro goals. Awesome. So I have little like notepads and like post-it notes that I have all over that have my exact task that I need to do next. What's the next physical action I need to do? The second one, right? That I'll get distracted by social media. So you know what I did? I left my office door open. And you know why? Because then if my wife would walk by and she's like, wait, I'm watching the kids killing myself so that you could do this paper and you're just reading Twitter? Come on, right? And so like having that, again, it's just a practical little thing. But since I had identified what the problem was, what an obstacle was going to be, I could come up with something that was a little bit more practical to kind of overcome that obstacle. And for food, my kids already figured it out, which is annoying, but I have a food drawer, right, filled with Oreos and cookies and Twizzlers, and now my little girls, they always come in, Daddy, I'm hungry. Do you want a snack? Right, and they know already, so my secret's out. And but I would just keep snacking there so that I wouldn't have that, that distraction of having to wander down to the kitchen. So let's try this all together, right? Let's take your second piece of paper and write down a goal for this week. You could do 1 goal, 2 goals, three goals. Again, they're personal. I'm not grading you. I'm not grading you. But do try to keep it neat. Remember, this is for yourself. I know a lot of us here are doctors, so I'm not going to judge. But try to keep it like this is for yourself, right? The goal on the top. Once you've written down your goals, now let's move down to, let's take the first goal. I'm just going to do one of them with you. You could do the rest on your own if you want. You could do that during like the question and answers if you want, but let's take your first goal, right? Now skip down to like a couple of spaces and then write clarifying or clarity. And then clarify for yourself, why is this important to me? What does it mean to me? Get in touch with your core values. What does it have to do with those things that you wrote on the other paper, the purpose and your passion? How does it connect to that? And give yourself a pump-up talk. Be your own football coach. This is really the part where I have the most fun. I'm gonna give you time because it's really fun. All right, if you could use the raise your hand function or the thumbs up function to let me know that you're done, we'll go by the majority. When the majority of you put up a little something to let me know that you're done, we can move on to the next. All right, we see that Myron's done. Good for you, Myron. All right, Doug, you're finished. Great. All right, Dr. Muscat. Deborah Richardson, Sivia, Sheer Stilton. Awesome. All right, we're getting some traction here. For those of you taking too long, I'm going to have to suspect that you're spacing out. So we're going to move ahead without you, all right? Fine. So next, right? So now that you have the clarity, let's move on to what's stopping you from achieving that goal. Remember, you're just talking about the first goal, 1 goal at a time, 1 roll, 1 goal. So what are your challenges? What is stopping you from achieving that goal? And it could be anything, right? This really is where it kind of depends on your own knowledge of self, right? How self-aware you are and your knowledge of the way that the world kind of interacts with you and the way that we interact with the world. This is uniquely personal. Remember, I'm not going to see it. This is up to you. You could You can be as personal and vulnerable as you need to. It's just to you. All right. The more specific you are, the more helpful it will be for this last section when we go through, okay, so now what are the solutions? How can I overcome those challenges? How can I overcome those obstacles? They should kind of just happen. A few of them will be really easy now that like you see it, right? And there are others you'll have to think about, and that's okay. It's just a few seconds of intellectual effort. It's always helpful for me to try to get it to the next actionable step. Like, what is the next physical thing I have to do? I think, what's his name in his book, David Allen, in Getting Things Done, I think he gives this recommendation of what is the next physical action I need to do. And then what I found to be helpful is then to kind of summarize, the tasks that I came up with in my solution section and put them on like either like a small note card or like a business card, like something that I could keep in my pocket or put it on my phone, take a picture of it, and then I have it, on my phone so I could see it. Right. If it's something that I have to do on my computer, let's say put on a filter onto my computer so that I can't go onto Facebook, so then I would put the sticky note on my computer. So when I get to my computer, it says, oh, put on thing. I've also found it to be helpful, by the way, to write down how much we assume, how much time it would take. Sometimes it'll only take like 2 minutes. And when we write just 2 minutes in like little parentheses, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. Because you're like, oh, hey, this is kind of easy. I could just get this out of the way. Now that you're done, right, let's take a step back and give ourselves a mindful minute to just reflect. How does it feel? Look at your paper, both of them. Just drink in the feeling. Go through what your sensations are, how you're feeling now, what you're thinking. I just enjoy that. This is our own sanctuary of self. Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. We've just created our own sanctuary. We've tapped into who we are, what we want, where we want to go. And now you've taken the first step to being the best you. Let's get out there and care, folks. We can do this. Thank you all. I'm open for questions, comments, queries. Just don't be mean.
Yeah, I invite folks. Thank you. That was, it's compelling and helpful to think of the Sabbath and to think of the sanctuary of the self with this sort of goal-directed method as being linked. Are there folks who want to share a question, a thought, comment, idea? Noah, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes.